Now, just was really, I don't know whether you're aware what the difference is between an obstacle and a blockage. And I don't think I was aware. I certainly wasn't aware for ages. And I used to blame the blockages in my life, and I'll explain who and what they were. And it's not really about them, it's about me. And I actually believe they were the problem. Now I realise they're the possibility, and now they're the opportunity. Obstacles are actually an opportunity. And they were an opportunity for me to get present to then what was blocking me moving forward in life, blocking me in relationships, blocking me just feeling light and free, making life light and easy. That's where we're going to. That's the reason for this talk. It's just to make you aware of what a blockage is and what an obstacle is. And in my life, in a couple of circumstances, just how that influenced and affected my relationships. And also how it actually stopped me from feeling at peace, having a fruitful relationship despite whatever, and using everything to come to good. As someone has said, you can't change your circumstances sometimes, but you can change yourself. That's what you can do. One of the things that I often state, what is it you can do? So I remember feeling very stuck, trapped and frustrated at one stage. And it's a bit like being in the miry pit, as it says in the Word of God. And I didn't quite know how to get out of it. And one incident, just to share with you, and I'll share this. This has nothing to do with the other person. It's to do with me. It's actually my personal story. And I can remember driving behind my husband one day. My husband, for 51 years, we have a great relationship. We've moved through many obstacles and blockages and learned a great deal on our journey. And I looked at the BMW and I saw it, I didn't know then, but I actually saw it as the obstacle in my life. And the reason, I looked at the BMW and I hated it. And I'm telling you this story because this is about me. And I thought, why am I hating the BMW? I'm looking at it. There's a good man in it, my husband, and I'm hating the BMW. Hatred was one of the blockages that immediately stood up, but the obstacle was the car. And I realised later on, as I asked the wonderful counsellor, what is it about that car? What is it that I hate so much? What does it represent to me? And the obstacles in this case, just as they are in your life, made me feel a sense of that was more important than me, and it made me feel like I was alone. Because that car represented my husband having to work very, very long hours, 6 days a week. The phone was rarely off, and he was working really, really hard. But it meant that quite often I felt alone. What I didn't realise is that car, that obstacle, which represented a lack of time with the man that I love so much, was actually an opportunity to get in touch with my aloneness. And that aloneness wasn't because of him. Now where I am at, it doesn't matter if he's got 5 BMWs. It doesn't matter if he works 7 days a week. It just doesn't rock my socks at all. It doesn't trigger me off. But what I didn't realise is that car, representing the fact that it was the cause of me being alone, represented the aloneness that I felt, but not just in the present, but it was also in the past. I realised, fortunately, in time, and that obstacle became an opportunity for me to get present to what I was feeling, hatred, resentment. I felt like it was unfair, and it was unjustified, and it was unbalanced. And on I went into complaining. This is what we can do with an obstacle in our life, when something isn't how we want it to be. And then when I actually got in touch with that sense of, as a result of it all, what did I believe about myself? I believed I was alone and I wasn't cared for. I wasn't important, wasn't valued. And then the facilitator of Agape Encounter, for which I will always be unbelievably grateful for, because it's changed me, it changed my relationship. Took me back, well, actually asked me to drift back with the wonderful counsellor into a childhood memory where I felt chronically alone, unwanted, uncared for, and absolutely voiceless, with no voice, no rights. And that whole memory was very dark and grey. So what had happened is that situation had triggered off an earlier and deeper memory. I actually experienced the truth there. I actually experienced the presence of light and love, the feelings of being unwanted, of abandoned. I've mentioned this before. The aloneness disappeared. And that aloneness, I saw that when I came back into the present day situation with the facilitator, I no longer felt alone. I realised later on in my relationship, it didn't matter, as I said before, how much time my husband worked. It wasn't the time that he was working, it was what it made me feel and where it left me, my belief. And that belief was able to be used to really become present, not only to myself, but present to the wonderful counsellor. I have never felt alone since. Never. That aloneness was chronic, and the pain relating to it was extraordinary. So I no longer need to try, strive, or pretend anymore. And as a result of me, using that obstacle in my life to deal with the blockages, which were hatred, resentment, and anger, then I got clear. Within 2 weeks, my husband's business was sold, and he's with me a lot of the time now. So I got it both. But I no longer necessarily wanted it. I no longer needed it. I no longer believed that I needed him to be there to stop my aloneness, because he can come and go. He might die, but please God, he won't. But what I'm saying is that was the obstacle. The other obstacle that was in my life that I remember a story, and there was many, many stories I remembered I wanted to share with you as an example, was one of a young lady who came forward, and it was a public gathering, and she was willing for me to work with her. And she said her problem was a feeling that she was like an idiot, that she felt that she couldn't learn anything, and that somehow it was her fault. Anyway, to cut a long story short, the obstacle, which went back to a memory, just suddenly she slipped into this memory of a childhood memory being with a teacher. That could be in the present or it can be in the past. In her case, it was being triggered off. And it was unresolved. That which is unresolved repeats itself. The teacher was pointing her finger at her, telling her she was an idiot, that she should do better, it was her fault, and she ought to pull herself together. She, at that moment that the teacher in front of everyone else was accusing her of being an idiot and she couldn't learn, she felt of no value at all. And in that place, she was just frozen and traumatized. She experienced the presence of love. She experienced the truth, and she was able to forgive that teacher. Came back to the present day situation where she felt like an idiot again in this situation. She was blamed and told, and she just constantly felt like this idiot from time to time where it was being triggered off. Again, in that situation, she said, it doesn't matter anymore, just the same as me. So when you actually deal with the feelings relating to that obstacle, what is it for instance, in your life, if you think about now, what is the very obstacle in your life now? What is the person, the situation that you want to change? That is an obstacle. That person, that situation becomes an obstacle to you, but it's actually an opportunity for you to get present to how you feel as a result of that person, that situation, that thing that you can't change. Maybe it's a pain in your body. The other day, someone had a pain in their body and they were resenting it and resisting it. That's the blockages. So the situation is an obstacle, which can be an opportunity, and the blockages become the emotions and feelings, our action, our response. In her case, she resented and hated the feelings in her body, and she just wished that they weren't there anymore. And she just frustrated, and frustration creates a blockage. So what are the feelings, what are the things that show you that you're blocked? The things that show you that you're blocked: when you feel frustrated, angry, resentful, when you feel like you could kill somebody, you want to murder them, that you want to take revenge. One young lady wanted to have revenge, and when I was working with her, she said she'd like to cut the person's head off. That's how bad the anger and the hurt was, and the hurt was very much about abandonment. She experienced a breakthrough, and the murder and all the emotions dissolved. So the blockages are your feelings which lead to your beliefs. Those feelings and emotions need to be acknowledged and released. I know I say this over and over again, but it's the thing that I see, the problem with relationships and most people in their life, it causes depression because they suppress their feelings and emotions. They lead on to the belief leads on to the truth. And the truth sets you free. And there's a beautiful bit of scripture that says, I want truth in the innermost parts of your being. Fill my mind with your wisdom, it says in Psalm 51. Examine me, O God, and know my mind. Test me and discover my thoughts. And that's whatever is hidden away in Luke 8 will be brought into the open, and whatever is covered up will be found and brought to light. A good person brings out of the treasure of good things in his heart. A bad person brings bad out of the treasure of his heart. For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. That's why I spend so much time with these topics of dealing with our feelings and our beliefs, because it comes out of our mind. And then we feel bad, and then we feel trapped again. Instead of just using the feelings, using the circumstances, and saying, listening to what you're believing and listening to the truth. I think some of the other things that can come as a blockage are a denial. I'm fine. This is what I did for years. People would say to me, how are you, Helen? I just wanted to be happy. So I used to say I was fine, when in fact, a lot of the time I was fed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. That's fine. Deep down, I had not dealt with the innermost parts of my being, and it was showing by the way I was reacting or avoiding people or avoiding situations. It shows up in your life. I think also one of the other things is logical thinking. I think, rationalizing. I used to say, oh, they didn't mean it. They're really a good person. I'm going to forgive them. But it would still keep going around in my mind and my heart, and I'd play over the situation, and I'd still feel hurt, and I'd find myself backing away from the person or the situation because I didn't want to be hurt again. That's an opportunity for the blockages, which becomes blockages if we don't deal with it, to really, really be honest and true to ourselves. Our humanity, it's in your weakness that God's love and will be made perfect. So be real, be honest, and then you won't feel bad. I think as a mother, I used to, I think I wanted to be such a good mother for my kids, and I was overall, but I had a problem with saying no, because if I said no, I'd feel bad. And then I believed I was bad. But the truth is, that only led to them being insecure at times and not knowing about boundaries, which made them feel secure. And I had to learn that the hard way. And I actually apologised to them later that I didn't say no to them more often and stick to my words and say no, so they would feel more secure rather than insecure. really me not saying no was all about me because I didn't want to feel bad, because I'd felt bad as a little child. That was the blockage. And I needed to take that to the truth and say, what is the truth? Wisdom and love from your perspective. Is it true that I am bad? Is it true that I'm alone? Is it true that I'm an idiot? Is it true that, that I'm not, it's my fault, I'm responsible? These are the beliefs that hold the emotion captive and keep you in that miry pit of darkness to some degree. Part of you is okay, but the other part isn't. Part that's okay is fine. It's the part that's not, that it keeps rising up and you keep not knowing how to move through it. Forgiveness, okay, you can forgive. It can be just an act of forgiveness. Just simply saying, yeah, I forgive them. But really, are you forgiving them? Do you actually feel love towards them? You don't have to like them. That's a blockage. But the way through forgiving them is dealing with your feelings, your beliefs, and then asking forgiveness from Jesus from the cross. If you don't believe in him, do it anyway. See what happens. His capacity to forgive when he was being abused, unjustly dealt with, he was treated like trash. And there's so many people now that feel like they've been treated like trash as a result of what people have done to them. Let that forgiveness flow through you, just as a young girl did when her father abused her. It completely released her. She wanted to forgive it, but she couldn't. It worked because she used a capacity beyond herself. So the other thing is generational. When you look at your family, what are the things in your family? Look at it. And my mother used to deny her feelings all the time because she had so many of them and she didn't know what to deal with them. And my father didn't know how to deal with his feelings, and he'd had a rather abusive, a broken father with an abusive background, and he would just then drink a lot, and that would create other problems. And I loved my dad because he was a good man, but then he would ruin it by drinking too much. And then my mother would suppress her feelings, and when I had feelings, she'd tell me that I was too emotional because she didn't know how to deal with her feelings. I understand them both now, and I have compassion for them. And they did the greatest job they can possibly do. Why do I do what I'm doing now? I'm doing it because it set me free. And I have the tools that I'm sharing with you. When you get blocked, when you see somebody as an obstacle, they're not how they want you to be, go back, take responsibility for yourself again and again. So it's accepting the situation, the obstacle in your life. Repeating myself because it's so important. Just dealing with those feelings and emotions honestly, giving them a voice. People just have a voice by drawing sometimes. Having a voice lets you feel freer. The blockages start to be removed. Experiencing the truth and then responding rather than reacting to situations. Then you've got this greater, you're actually more and more one with the presence of peace and wisdom within you. And in the moment when anyone upsets you, you can tell him how you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you'd like to do, and then it's done with. If it's deeper, it needs further assistance and further help. So take responsibility. I know I'm repeating the same old things. It's a little like last week, but this week is about what becomes an obstacle in our life. Our children can become an obstacle to our peace because we want them to change. We want their lives to be better. Let them be. Pray for them. Come back and deal with your own feelings and your own beliefs. Gain wisdom's perspective as I did with my daughter when she was almost dying. And I saw her dancing in the daisies and I clung to that rather than to the reality. And she actually now dances in the daisies. Her life has totally changed. And I've changed as a result. I let it go and peace came. In every situation, I think, a lot of people have said to me, but I can't listen. To remove the blockages of the negative feelings, thoughts about ourselves, our beliefs, because our beliefs hold all our emotions, as I said. A lot of people say, but I can't trust what I hear. I can't trust that it's the truth. This is how you'll know it's the truth. If you just listen. Have your emotions changed? Have they dissolved? This is dissolving the blockages. Then you see the obstacles in your life quite differently, like my daughter dancing the daisies. And I clung to it. That's an act of faith. And it came to be a reality. So listen, and then trust is built little by little as you listen. And then as you listen and you experience the truth, slowly, slowly a relationship is built and your trust builds. And as you practice this day by day, you will discover that you have a companion, a shepherd within you, sheltering you. It's only us that walks away from the shelter. The shelter's always there. It's just that we lose ourselves in other people and other things and other situations when they hurt us, instead of running back to the shelter and being sheltered and comforted by the comforter of all comforts. So what I'm going to do now is take you through a meditation, and it's brief, but it's very powerful so that you don't get blocked for long. That whenever an obstacle happens in your life, whether it be a person or a thing, that you use it as an opportunity to use this little exercise that you can do on your own. So I recommend you close your eyes, but you don't have to. Pardon me, and if you've done this many, many times, do it again, because you're a product of your environment. And let me tell you, sometimes our environment, we've got a bit of a debris on us still that we still need to resolve. So sit back in your chair, feel the chair, and if you relate to love, truth, wisdom, Jesus, wonderful counselor, just please relate to those words. All I ask you to do is to be an observer and allow your Creator to bring up into your mind anything that is an obstacle, anyone that's an obstacle, could be yourself, into your mind's eye. And I'm going to ask him, as a result of that, what do you feel? This is an opportunity to experience what I'm talking about yet again. So observe it, acknowledge what comes to your mind, who comes to your mind, the feelings and the beliefs. And then you will get a chance to express how you're feeling, or to that person in your mind's eye, and then they will get an opportunity, second perspective, to share back with you what they think or feel. You'll be surprised at what happens. The obstacles and blockages will dissolve, and then we can ask wisdom to speak. Three-way perspective. So wonderful counselor, Spirit of truth and life and love. Because you want inner truth in the innermost parts of our being, we give you permission now to grant us the grace to be an observer. Bring to our mind the obstacle that's in our life at the moment. The thing is, it is creating an obstacle to being free. That person, situation, ourselves. Just look into your mind's eye like a television screen. And I ask you, wonderful counsellors, as people look into their mind's eye, you show them how they feel as a result of that obstacle, that person, that situation. Allow the feelings to rise up. Name them, claim them. Could be resentment, anger, all the feelings and emotions, and look at the person or the situation and speak them out in your mind's eye as though they were present to the person or to the situation. Tell them, as a result of what they're doing or not doing or what they have done, how you feel and what you believed about yourself as a result of what they have done. Just as though they were present, tell them. And go for it. Tell them what you'd like to do to them. This is a way of resolving your anger. Give them a good shake, kick them in the shins. This releases you and will release them. And now you've had a voice, your feelings, your beliefs, your way of wanting to express how you feel. Now look at the other person, the other situation. I'm going to ask the wonderful counsellor, what would they say back to you? Now look at the person, the situation, yourself, whoever's in your mind's eye, who's been the obstacle. Wonderful counsellor, what would you have them see now? What would that person say back, their perspective? Look at them, become aware, become conscious. It's a sense. Accept. Notice if you feel different. Notice if there's been a shift in how you feel, because feelings control our lives. They shouldn't, they should be used. But notice if you feel more at peace or not at peace. We can help you as facilitators later. Now the third perspective is this, to remove the obstacles and dissolve the blockages. I ask you, wonderful counsellor, spirit of truth, of justice, of light, what would you have us see? What would you say to us about that situation, that person, ourselves? Listen to the first sense, image or feeling you have. You may have had a real insight. This is where you gain clarity and peace, the presence of peace, and you're no longer captive. That blockage and obstacle dissolves when you have completely cleared, gained clarity. If you haven't, then it means there's more in the past that needs to be resolved, but it's just an indication and a pointer to resolving any deeper issue which the wonderful counsellor will bring up. Or else you can ring us on Agape Encounter. Look on our website. You can do this little exercise anytime you like. It needs to only take a moment. Just be aware now of how you feel as I invite you back into the room, into the presence. Be aware of how you feel and notice if you feel more released, more relaxed, and more at peace, or you actually are unresolved. Either way, it's neither right nor wrong, but you become present to yourself. I want to say thank you for listening to this talk on obstacles and blockages, to understand what an obstacle is and how it creates blockages, how we can resolve them, and how this little meditation, this reflection, can actually resolve it very easily. And if not, certainly we can facilitate you if you contact us, or else find a very good counsellor who can help you resolve the deeper issues that relate to how you are still unresolved. Thank you for listening.